This is your life. And those were pictures of no ordinary commuter. That man commutes every day to West End stardom. He drives the 120 miles from his suburban home in Coventry, where only a few years ago he worked in an engineering factory. He was 20 before he'd even seen a stage show. Now his daily journey ends here at Her Majesty's Theatre. And this is where he ceases to be a face in the crowd, the moment he dons the mask of the Phantom of the Opera. Today, he thinks documentary cameras have been following him to tell the story of an unknown engineer who threw away suburban security to make it in show business. In fact, those cameras were ours, and we haven't finished yet. When the curtain comes down tonight, I shall have quite a surprise for the Phantom of the Opera. Well, you may not have guessed this by now, but our cameras were not, after all, here to do a documentary, but so that I can say tonight, Dave Willetts, this is your life.
I'm flabbergasted.
You've gone all pale.
Can you see under this?
We shall soon, and we've got a whole cast of people back in our Teddington studios to tell your story.
Oh, thank you
very
much.
So thank you very much for being such a marvellous, responsive audience. They know what we're here for. But I have to take you away, Dave, so leave the stage with me.
Let's go.
Thank you very much. Well, Dave, from amateur dramatics to the West End in a few short years, are there still times when you think you're dreaming?
When you sit down and think about it, yeah. You always think the bubble's going to burst very soon, you know, but touch wood, it's still going.
So far, so good.
So far, so
And the girl who helped make your dream come true is here, your wife, Lynn, and the daughters who waved you off earlier today, Leanne and Kerry. Now, Lynn, that day when Dave told you he wanted to quit the safe job, regular salary and company car for the hazards of show business, how did you react apart from packing your bags?
Well, we just decided together that we could pay the mortgage still and feed the children.
Didn't have to send the kids down the mines. That was okay.
And it was all worth it in the end.
Well, that is certainly the view of the world's most successful living composer of stage musicals. Only aspects of love prevent him from being here, Andrew Lloyd Webber.
Hi, David. I'm really sorry I can't be with you tonight. I'm on my honeymoon, so this has to be sort of taken as a little token instead. David, I'd love to take this opportunity to say thank you for everything you've done with the Phantom of the Opera. You had the most difficult situation, really, because it's a tough act to follow when you've got somebody like Michael Crawford, but follow it, you really did. In fact, you have made the piece hugely your own, and I think you are now truly established as one of our major musical theatre stars. So all the best from me, and I hope you have a wonderful evening.
Thank you, Andrew Lloyd Webber. And now let's hear the voice that so impressed him. Dave Willetts as Phantom of the Opera singing the show's hit numbers.
Let the dream begin, let your darker side give in to the power of the music that I write. The power of the music of the night. To turn from me, to glance behind, the phantom of the opera is there inside your mind.
Well, David Willetts, This Is Your Life, and that voice had its first airing on June the 24th, 1952, at Marsden Green Hospital, Birmingham. You were the second child of a car worker. That's you with your big sister. Your mother played piano, and you joined in the sing-songs at the family home at number 9 Fenton Road, Birmingham. Your dad made his own special contribution, right, Walter?
That's right. I was a virtuoso on the common tissue paper.
Lovely. And your mother, Madge, also added to the music, right, Madge?
Yes, and I played the piano.
And you sang duets with your sister, Linda.
Shall I start?
You better, you've got to remind me of the words.
Okay. This is the moment I've waited for.
Now
that we are one, clouds won't hide the sun.
blue skies and a lower song on this our wedding day.
Dave Willetts, This Is Your Life.
You can't follow that, can you, really?
And he's been working all night as well. Well done. That was lovely. Thank you both. Now, Madge, when Dave was 10, you bought him a guitar, didn't you?
Yes, it cost £9, and he got some songs together, but he couldn't read a note of music.
Still can't.
And he still can't.
Still can't.
That's right. Nothing changes, does it, really? I still can't play the guitar either.
Well, in fact, you were more interested in soccer when you went to Sheldon Heath Comprehensive School. You were good enough to be offered a trial with West Brom. But when you leave school, you take up a 5-year technical apprenticeship with Girling brake manufacturers. You start training at the firm's factory in South Wales. You're in digs with other apprentices from Birmingham and head home for the weekends.
Singing I will if you will, so will I. Singing I will if you will. I will if you will. I will if you will, so will I. Hey!
Hi Dave, Clive here. Do you remember those Friday night coach trips from South Wales?
He'd be getting up and getting everyone on the bus to sing along with us. Mind you, we'd had an advantage. We'd stopped off at the cider hall, the Newfound House, before we got on the bus.
I would have been proud of you, Dave, and so are we. So we'll have one more song before we get home.
Daisy,
There was a diversion. Here come the Birmingham Buskers.
Oh, mate, how are you? Hi, how are you doing? Good to see you.
Well, back in Birmingham, you meet Lynn. She quickly gives you her answer, and you're married at St Andrew's Church in Easton Green in April 1972. You'd just completed your apprenticeship, and you were offered a job back in South Wales in Pontypool, where the front row had nothing to do with the theatre. In fact, Dave, I believe that you and Lynn had never been to a theatre.
Never been to theatre. I think the closest we got was, I don't know, a school production sometime or other. And it was a friend of mine who had some spare tickets, and I'm sure to this day, if I'd have had to pay to them, I still wouldn't have gone to the theatre. But he gave us the tickets.
That's a later story, in fact,
along,
so
yeah.
we'll come to that one perhaps a bit later. So, in fact, your first sight of a curtain up came, says here, oddly enough, when two pals from the Girling factory twisted your arm into buying theatre tickets for a show they were in.
That's exactly
That's
right.
the story. It was an amateur production of Call Me Madam, and it changed your life dramatically.
Mr. Sally Adams requests the pleasure of your company.
Taking a curtain call 15 years on, John Richard and Ray Barton.
Take it off.
Now, John, what prompted you to persuade Dave to buy the tickets?
Well, we really thought the show was going to be terrible. And so basically we pressured everybody we knew into buying some, into getting tickets to get some bums on seats.
But the most important thing was we had a hell of a lot of laughs.
Oh, didn't we?
Even if the audience didn't.
Thank you, John and Ray. Don't call us. Thank you. And those are their working clothes. Very smart fellas. Well, you leave the theatre of Newport Venture Players determined on a venture of your own to audition for their next production. The show was The King and I.
And you, Dave, as you confessed, had never heard of it.
Founder and director Terry Underwood. So, Terry, you went ahead with the audition.
Yes, I told Dave to go away and learn a couple of songs from the King and I, which he did. And he sang, well, beautifully. I can only explain it in, well, he moved me to tears. Dave, you were brilliant, absolutely magnificent. You got the second lead in our production. That was your very first show. And you went on, you did about 6 or 7 years with us, playing the lead. Kips, everything else, you did a lot, for our society. But I'm very glad that at least I gave him the first part, his very first part.
Thank you very much, Terry Underwood. Well, after 10 happy years in Wales, you're offered a major part back in the Midlands in engineering management, and you join the local amateur group in Leamington Spa. You run the whole gamut of leading roles in musicals, and a turning point on your route to professional stardom comes at the Priory Theatre in Kenilworth. Musical director Alison Bidder there invites Coventry Evening Telegraph theatre critic Peter McGarry to see you in a production. His rave review results in the director of Coventry's famous Belgrade Theatre, Bob Hamlin, offering you your first ever professional role. Chatting to one of the stars of the show, you mentioned that it's your first professional booking.
I just couldn't believe that at the age of over 30, you'd given up a good job and a company car to turn pro. I thought you were quite potty.
And that worried lady is none other than Liz Fraser. Hi, Liz. So you thought he was potty?
Well, I really did. I mean, ours is such a precarious profession. And there was Lynn becoming a childminder. And there was Dave playing a policeman among all the other parts with about 5 lines. And then when I saw him in Phantom of the Opera, I mean, I was just so overwhelmed. I thought he was so fabulous. And I cried to think that I'd been there on the very first few lines that Dave ever said on the professional stage. I was thrilled.
Thanks, Lizzie.
Thank you, Liz Fraser. But Lynn, not long after Dave went professional, it looked as though Liz Fraser might have been right first time.
Yes, he was very ill after his first show, and he was off work for 3 months with glandular fever.
The recovery takes 3 long months, and then you spot an advertisement for auditions for a new West End musical based on Victor Hugo's novel Les Miserables. You're one of scores of hopefuls at that audition, but you get a small part in the show that becomes the West End musical hit of 1985. And just a year later, you take over the leading role.
If I die, let me die. Let him live. Bring him home. Bring him home. Bring him.
During your West End debut in Les Miserables, you had visitors from the Coventry City soccer team. It was their FA Cup winning year.
It remains a very, very good FA Cup final. And Hatchin! What a magnificent goal!
Well, if you hadn't played the Belgrade Theatre, you'd have loved to have played for Coventry City. We joined them in training. Here's goalkeeper Steve Ogrizovic.
Hello, Dave. I hope you're having a great night in London, and regards from us all at Coventry City Football Club.
Hello, Dave. Well, you're all set to achieve your boyhood ambition and play for Coventry City at Highfield Road in a testimonial match for cup-winning manager John Sillett. That'll be at the end of the season, but just to make you feel at home, I've been giving the lads some special tactical training.
Dave, they said Pele was the phantom. Well, I've got a bloody team of them.
Well, that could confuse a ref. I mean, who'd you give the red card to? Look forward to seeing you inside of Highfield Road. No, that will be an opening night. See you then.
Any chance of some tickets, Dave?
Well, thanks there to the Phantoms of Coventry City. But, Dave, as we saw earlier, your home is still in the Midlands, where Kenilworth's Amateur Priory Theatre remains close to your heart. Only last year you staged a fundraising concert.
Underneath the arches, we dream our dreams away. Underneath the arches, on cobblestones we lay.
Flanagan and Allen, alias Geoffrey Holland and Don McLean.
That's why you got me down there, was it?
Geoffrey and Don, in fact, you look like a couple of mafia men there. How did you come to be on the show?
You first. I met Dave when he was working the West End in Phantom. I was up the road in Run for Your Wife at the Criterion, and we got to know each other. When this show for the Priory came up, Dave asked me if I'd do it, and I said I'd be delighted, which I was. And then he said to me, would you like to do a spot? And I said, well, I don't do jokes. And he says, no, singing. He said, I said, if you think that I'm going to stand on the same stage as you, solo, and sing, you're mistaken. But he persuaded me to do a couple of duets, mate, and we had a lot of fun, didn't we?
It was good fun. It was great fun.
Well, I've
got to sit down for this. I don't know what he's going to say.
No, I've been a fan of Dave's for a little while, seen everything he'd done, and I heard that he was doing this show at University of Warwick, and I rang up for tickets, and this woman said, we're full up. Full up, she said. Got none. I said, look, I want some tickets. I chewed this woman off a terrible strip, and I gave her my phone number. I said, get me some tickets. And that night, the phone rang, and I answered it. He said, Dave Willetts here. I said, what, Dave Willetts, the Pavarotti of Spon End? He said the very same. He said, I'm doing this show called Dave Willetts and Friends, he says, and I ain't got any friends, he said.
I only had him because the only one people could understand in Birmingham.
Well, not only were you two in it, of course, but so was an international star you appeared with in the West End. She's in America tonight, but she sends you this message. Petula Clark.
Hello, my lovely Dave. Recognise that? Well, I hope you're enjoying This Is Your Life. It's a funny feeling, isn't it? Well, working on someone like you was very special for me. A great experience, getting to know you. Best of all, of course, we sang together, and I just love singing with you. And I hope we do it again very soon. I wish I could have been with you tonight. I know it's going to be a great party. It always is when you're around. I send lots of love to you and your family, and hope to see you all again soon.
Thank you, Petula Clark. Well, in the past year, there's been non-stop knocking on your dressing room door, West End professionals calling with their congratulations. Among them, someone who's just walked through our front door, straight from the West End stage, Julia Mackenzie. Hello, Julia. Now, Julia, speaking for your fellow professionals, what makes Dave so special?
Well, he's one of a very rare breed. He's a proper musical comedy leading man, and they're very few. He's got a terrific voice and a great dramatic sense. And, in fact, I was so knocked out with him when I saw you in Les Miserables. I wrote him a fan letter and said, I thought you'd be good when you started, but as the evening went on, he really has stature, and I don't think you're going to have to knock on wood. I don't think your bubble's going to burst at all. I'm sure you're going to be around for a long while. God bless.
Thanks, Jill.
Julia Mackenzie, thank you. Now, a final musical memory of those days in Warwickshire, when you weren't appearing on the amateur stage and long before your West End dreams, your greatest pleasure was performing as a Midlands dance band singer. Who else but the Jeff Goff Band?
I don't believe this. John, how are you, mate? Hey, Jeff, you all right, mate? You must have known about this.
Now, Jeff, that is a favourite song of Dave's, isn't that right?
It certainly is. And You're Nobody Till Somebody Loves You might be a good song for Dave to dedicate to his wife, Lynn. How about it, Dave?
Well, we'll have a go.
You're nobody till somebody loves you. You're nobody till somebody cares. You may be king, you may possess the world and all of its gold, but gold won't bring you happiness when you're growing old. The world is still the same, you're never gonna change it. As sure as the stars shine above, you're nobody till somebody loves you. So find yourself somebody, someone find yourself somebody, find yourself somebody to
Wait, what is This Is Your Life? Well done. Great stuff.